Today I would like to better inform you about a religious group I became a part and parcel of while incarcerated in the Michigan Department of Corrections. Although I'm no longer with the main branch, I still embody 99% of the ideology. With that being said, this is still a movement I believe more people should know and understand. A man named Noble Drew Ali, believed to be an angel divinely prepared by Allah, created this movement in the early 1900s. Before we dive into the Moorish Science Temple of America, we must first know who its founder is. Timothy Drew was born January 8, 1886 A.D. in the state of North Carolina. He never stated who his parents were for the reasons of he didn't want them to be made shrines of, worshipped, etc. This is the same reason he never told the exact city he was born in. The point was to keep focus on Allah and self. This is what the faction of my former branch taught. There are over 50 branches of the MST with over 5 versions that I heard about Prophet Noble Drew Ali's parents and birthplace. There's really no way to truly know. Some say Drew Ali was born to ex-slavers. Some say his father was Drew Quitman, a military and a political leader, and his mother, Eliza Turner Quitman, was a full-blooded Washita mother. This is why there is a faction of the MST called the Washita Moors, founded by Empress Verdiasi Tyree Washita Turner Gostin El Bey. His father, being a political leader, would explain why Prophet Noble Drew Ali spoke so firmly and knew how to structure an organization, especially in those times when education was not so abundant for people of our complexion. Versions of his upbringing varies even more. Some say he was raised by an abusive aunt who threw him into an oven and then an angel appeared to save him. He never stated this himself, I must add. Another version holds that he left home at 16 and joined a band of Romani people who took him overseas to Egypt and the Middle East. Drew Ali also reportedly worked as a circus magician or a merchant seaman before purportedly traveling to Egypt. He never received a formal education, but at some point came into contact with Eastern philosophy. In 2014, a completely different understanding of Drew Ali's early life was presented with the publication of an article in the online Journal of Race, Ethnicity, and Religion. The article presented newly compiled evidence, including census records, newspaper ads, newspaper articles, a World War I draft card, and street directory records, to link Noble Drew Ali to one Thomas Drew, who was born on the same date as Timothy Drew but originated from Virginia instead. Drew Ali reported that during his travels in Egypt, he met a high priest of Egyptian magic. In one version of Drew Ali's biography, the leader saw him as a reincarnation of the founder. In others, he claims that the priest considered him a reincarnation of Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, and other religious prophets. According to the biography, the high priest trained Ali in mysticism and gave him a law section of the Quran. 5. This text came to be known as the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, not to be confused with the Islamic Quran. It is also known as the Circle 7 Quran because of its cover, which features a red 7 surrounded by a blue circle. The first 19 chapters are from the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, published in 1908 by esoteric Ohio preacher Levi Dowling. In the Aquarian Gospel, Dowling described Jesus' supposed travels in India, Egypt, and Palestine during the years of his life, which are not accounted for by the New Testament. Chapters 20 through 45 are borrowed from the Rosicrucian work, Under the I Grant, with minor changes in style and wording. They are instructions on how to live, and the education and duties of adherence. Drew Ali wrote the last 4 chapters of the Circle 7 Quran himself. In these he wrote, "The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites, and the founders of the holy city of Mecca." Drew Ali used this material to claim Jesus and his followers were Asiatic. Asiatic was the term Drew Ali used for all dark or olive-colored people. He labeled whites as European, although he labeled whites who became a part of the Empire as Persians or Celts. He suggested that all Asiatics should be allied. Drew Ali believed that African Americans were all Moors, who he claimed were descended from the ancient Moabites, describing them as belonging to Northwest Africa as opposed to Moab as the name suggests. He claimed that Islam and its teachings are more beneficial to their earthly salvation and that their true nature had been withheld from them. Male members of the temple wear a fez or turban as head covering. Women wear a turban. As Drew Ali began urging the Moorish Americans to become better citizens, he made speeches like A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations, in which he urged them to reject derogatory labels such as black, colored, and Negro. 5. He urged Americans of all races to reject hate and embrace love. He believed that Chicago would become a second Mecca. Drew Ali crafted Moorish science ideology from a variety of sources, a network of alternative spiritualities that focused on the power of the individual to bring about personal transformation through mystical knowledge of the divine within. In the interwar period in Chicago and other major cities, he used these concepts to preach Moorish pride. His approach appealed to thousands of African Americans who had left severely oppressive conditions in the South through the Great Migration and faced struggles adapting in new urban environments. It is possible that Drew Ali did actually travel to Egypt and Morocco, but historians believe that after leaving North Carolina, he moved to Newark, New Jersey, where he worked as a train expressman. In 1913, Drew Ali formed the Canaanite Temple in Newark. Drew Ali and his followers migrated while planting congregations in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Detroit. Finally, Drew Ali settled in Chicago in 1925, saying the Midwest was closer to Islam. The following year, he officially registered Temple No. 9. There he instructed followers not to be confrontational but to build up their people to be respected. In this way, they might take their place in the United States of America by developing a cultural identity that was congruent with Drew Ali's beliefs on personhood. In the late 1920s, journalists estimated the Moorish Science Temple had 35,000 members in 17 temples in cities across the Midwest and Upper South. The ushers of the temple wore black vests. The leader of a particular temple was known as a Grand Sheikh, or governor. Drew Ali attended the 1929 inauguration of Illinois Governor Louis Lincoln Emerson. The Chicago Defender stated that his trip included interviews with many distinguished citizens from Chicago, who greeted him on every hand. With the growth in its population and membership, Chicago was established as the center of the Moorish science movement Achaia the Mecca. In early 1929, following a conflict over funds, Claude Greenbay, the business manager of Chicago Temple No. 1 split from the Moorish Science Temple of America. He declared himself Grand Sheikh and took a number of members with him. On March 15, Greenbay was stabbed to death at the Unity Hall of the Moorish Science Temple on Indiana Avenue in Chicago. Drew Ali was out of town at the time, as he was dealing with former Supreme Grand Governor Lamex Bey Professor Ezzeldin Muhammad, who had supported Greenbay's attempted coup. 24 When Drew Ali returned to Chicago, the police arrested him and other members of the community on suspicion of having instigated the killing. No indictment was sworn for Drew Ali at that time. Once again, this is also unclear. Another version is that Drew Ali's wife had cheated with this very man and other Moors were not happy about it and took matters into their own hands. Shortly after his release by the police, Drew Ali died at age 43 at his home in Chicago on July 20, 1929. Although the exact circumstances of his death are unknown, the certificate of death stated that Noble Drew Ali died from tuberculosis bronchopneumonia. Despite the official report, many of his followers speculated that his death was caused by injuries from the police or from other members of the faith. Others thought it was due to pneumonia. One more told the Chicago Defender that the prophet was not ill. His work was done and he laid his head upon the lap of one of his followers and passed out. His funeral took place on July 25, 1929, with hundreds attending. The services were held at the Pythian Temple in Chicago, followed by the burial at Burr Oak Cemetery in nearby Alston. 29. The death of Drew Ali brought out a number of candidates who vied to succeed him. Edward Mealy stated that he had been declared Drew Ali's successor by Drew Ali himself, while John Givenshill, Drew Ali's chauffeur, declared that he was Drew Ali reincarnated. However, the governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America declared Charles Kirkman Bey to be the successor to Drew Ali and named him Grand Advisor. Wallace Fard Muhammad, the founder of Nation of Islam, was previously a prominent member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where he was known as David Fordell. After Drew Ali's death, he claimed to be the prophet reincarnated. When his leadership was largely rejected, he broke away from the Moorish Science Temple, moved to Detroit, and founded the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam leaders denied any historical connection to the Moorish Science Temple of America until February 26, 2014, when Louis Farrakhan acknowledged Noble Drew Ali's contribution to the Nation of Islam. In 1986, the Moroccan ambassador to the United States officially recognized the Moorish Science Temple's Islamic linkage to Morocco through Drew Ali.